All right, good morning. It is here right at 10:10 a.m. here on Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. I do hereby call this meeting of the Industrial Development Board to order, as it appears we do have a quorum. Moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, public comment period. Public comment period. The Industrial Development Board holds a public comment period at each meeting. Members of the public in attendance may provide comments to the board or its committees during such designated time. Members of the public are allotted 2 minutes for public comment. No advance registration is required. For today, note that this public comment period is for our general public comment period, which we're required to do at every board meeting, but this is also a public hearing for Rivergate Mall redevelopment TIF project, economic impact plan, and development agreement. With that, is there anyone here from the public? We'll start off. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak on any general matters? All right. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak regarding the public hearing for Rivergate Mall redevelopment TIF project, economic impact plan, and development agreement? All right, seeing as how there's no one here from the public wishing to speak today, we will close the public comment period. Moving on to item number 3, approval of prior meeting minutes from February 12th, 2025 meeting. Thank you for everyone that came to that meeting. That was our first meeting of this year. I'll give everyone a quick moment or two to review those minutes. Obviously, those were included in the packet prior to the meeting. A couple of items as you are looking at those. Again, what we have tried to do over the past several years is institute an annual training program. One, it's a great review for all of us board members, but certainly as we have new board members that come on board, it's a great review. So if you have some time, even if you were able to attend the meeting or didn't, that video is a great reference. I want to thank Metro Legal for their presentation. I want to thank Jamari Brown for the overview that I asked him to put together, that reviewed many of the tools that we use in our toolbox and some of our past projects. Also want to thank the Carpenter firm for their review as well, and giving us some additional bond training. And then a couple highlights from last year, because we did review that last year. This board approved 704 affordable housing units with the Dominion project, so huge accomplishment. We did projects in West Nashville, East Nashville, had projects all over the city, approved some state grants in Donaldson. And then another, I would say, huge win for last year is obviously this board updated and approved updated bond policies and procedures, which led to us doing some really fun projects last year. And we generated $75,000 in revenue last year. So huge accomplishment to you all for your support of those projects. And then lastly, before I entertain a motion on the minutes, I do want to thank everyone obviously for serving on the board, but certainly want to thank those individuals who are officers. And we did have elections in February, so I want to thank our new officers, Vice Chair Haston. I want to thank you. He's our new Vice Chair. Board Member Davis continuing to serve as Secretary, right? And Board Member Rodriguez will be our Assistant Secretary. And I want to thank the board for electing me chair. It's not an honor that I take lightly. It's a privilege to serve this board in a leadership capacity, but I thank everyone for their willingness to serve, especially Board Member Davis as Secretary, because there's routinely times throughout the year where we need to get documents executed, and they're always time sensitive. So thank you for your willingness to continue to do that. All right, with that, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion by Board Member Wright, properly seconded by Board Member Davis. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, motion carried. Please let the record show that the chair abstained. All right, moving on to item number 4, annual Metro incentive grant payouts, consideration of approval. Again, just quick overview. Today, we are not considering approval of any grants. We are considering potential approval of the annual payout. Again, we do this every year around this time. We'll start off with Phillips first. The Phillips Job Grant was an economic grant that was approved back in 2017 for a 7-year grant, $500 per employee. I was the only one on the board that was here in 2017 when that was approved, but was in full support of it. Phillips has been before us several times, obviously in the past, and has been a great partner in the community. But again, the way these annual incentive grants work, the grant was approved in 2017, but that is not necessarily when the clock starts. So once the clock starts and the companies start the clock on their jobs, it's 7 years in a row. They cannot take a break. So this is year 6 for Phillips. So they will be back before us again next year if all the jobs, if the 500 jobs qualify. If the jobs qualify for the metric, and they'll be back before us again next year for year 7 of their grant. So I'll stop there. I think we have someone for Phillips. If you want stands, you can. Please introduce yourself and tell us about Phillips.
I'm Ashley Harbin. I'm an attorney with Adams & Reese here on behalf of my client Phillips. And thank you, Chair and Executive Director Brown. I just have a few words I want to share on their behalf. It is an honor to come before you this year to tell Phillips' story and how they have become part of the fabric of this city. If you'll recall, Phillips announced in August of 2017 that it was going to establish a North American Center of Excellence in Nashville focused on healthcare technology and specifically its world-class excellence in areas such as diagnostic imaging and patient monitoring, where they are constantly developing technology to dramatically improve patient outcomes. Phillips indicated that its goal was to hire roughly 800 employees for that center of excellence, many of whom would need to be drawn from the local talent pool. Phillips chose Nashville over Atlanta, which was a victory in itself since Phillips had already had a significant presence in Atlanta, including the naming rights on Atlanta's basketball arena. Thanks to the help of Governor Bill Haslam, Mayor Megan Barry, and their teams, including Jamari Brown himself, Phillips chose Nashville and quickly became entrenched in this city. They chose the old Bank of America building at the corner of Rep. John Lewis Way and Union Street. That building is now known as Phillips Plaza. They held a number of job fairs demonstrating a commitment to local talent. While Nashville's emergence as a worldwide business center was certainly a drawing card, the partnership with the city and the state and the competitiveness of the incentive packages were also strong influences in Phillips' decision. Part of that incentive package included a grant agreement with Metro and the IDB in which Phillips agreed to create new jobs on a 7-year term at a rate of $500 per job. Those jobs are defined as individuals that work for a Phillips entity for at least 26 weeks during the grant year at an average of 32 hours per week and are paid in excess of the most recently published average wage for Nashville. These figures are provided in an annual statement, which is verified by KPMG, and determined which of the 782 employees that were working at Phillips at year end qualified for the incentive and which did not. After filtering out roles such as employees that were in functions previously filled by an individual at another Phillips entity or employees that had not been at Phillips for at least 26 weeks, it was determined that 635 employees met the requirement to seek reimbursement. Now in its final year of receiving incentives, we are proud to say that Phillips has once again delivered on its promises. The 635 employees that qualified as Phillips jobs under the terms of the agreement present as a very diverse Nashville, Davidson County centric workforce. 60% are female, 35% of the workforce is either African American, Hispanic, or Asian. We're pleased to know that almost half of our workforce comes from Davidson County at 52%. The second largest county is Rutherford, which comprises 13%. Phillips has also worked tirelessly to make an impact in the city and state. Among other things, it has engaged in extensive talks with the state to improve the state's ability to care for mothers that may be in high-risk pregnancies and to provide screening for diseases such as lung cancer. It has championed an app for expecting mothers that has become the standard for women going through pregnancy. And in the local community, this year, Phillips' local engagement team introduced the Volunteer Committee. bringing team members together to focus on all the ways Phillips can support this great city. So far, over 100 employees have participated in meaningful activities with wonderful organizations like Second Harvest Food Bank, the Nashville Rescue Mission, and Metro Animal Care and Control. Phillips is also proud to provide each of its full-time employees with 32 paid volunteer hours to encourage them to give back and support the local community.
It's 4 days if I'm doing my math correctly.
That's right. Over the years, Phillips has been proud to come before this board and tell its story about Nashville's impact on its company, while also noting some of the ways that we hope Phillips has been able to make a difference in its still relatively new home. We believe that the Phillips story in Nashville is a real success and a great example of what happens when there is a desire by a company, a city, and a state to forge a partnership and commit to a deal that benefits all sides and makes an impact on a community and region for years to come. Phillips thanks this board and this city for its outstanding support, and we look forward to being a cornerstone of the Nashville business community for years to come. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I turn over to questions, I will say this. I know your colleague is usually before us, but
Yes.
I do want to say this. Phillips came before this board prior to the Do Better bill, which was championed by Board Member Davis, and I was amongst kind of a couple of us board members that were really pushing to get demographic information. And I want to give some kudos to Phillips for being on board and being totally transparent and open and willing to do that, even though they didn't have to. So thank you for sharing that information. All right, with that, any questions here to my left? Any questions here to my right?
No.
Got a couple. Just minor. So I work in the same building as Phillips. You guys
Okay.
are, I think, a few floors below me. Or Phillips is. That building recently sold. Are they hoping to expand some more, maybe? I know there's some opportunities.
I am not sure. So I can certainly find out. I can ask the client, I can ask Phillips, but I'm just not sure myself.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
That'd be great. I guess, and then maybe just a general question to Josh and the legal team, how we evaluate these from the future. Since the Do Better bill, but also since COVID, there's just been a change in work from home policies and things like that. So I'm just curious on how we evaluate as a city these jobs grants in terms of just the economic impact that they would have, given if they're only in the office 3 days a week versus 5 days a week, there's a different calculus there in terms of calculating the impact.
That may be a question for Director Brown.
Yeah, I'll jump in and put on my other hat as Senior Director of Economic and Community Development. Jamari Brown. So the way we look at jobs now, we do take into account how they're reporting to the office. The most recent jobs contract, I believe, we had was with HCA, and HCA has a requirement for in the office. That's also a reason why they haven't come before the board.
You mean Bridgestone?
No, yeah, Bridgestone, sorry, not
Bridgestone.
HCA. Bridgestone has a requirement of being in the office for their employees to count, and so that's why they haven't come before the board the last few years.
Gotcha.
Because they don't qualify, and
Yeah.
if you can't skip years.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not that, and this is approved before, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, good?
I'm good.
Anything?
What was that average wage again of all the new jobs, or did you? I might have missed that.
Is that at a rate of $500 per job? Is that?
He was
Just
asking
like
like
the-
your employee pay, if you
Like
had
the-
average wage.
Was there an average wage of like all these 600 jobs or whatever? It's okay if you don't have it.
If not, we
Curious. Yeah.
can get that, and I know that we got it last year.
I don't remember the discussion.
It would.
It'll be in the report, yeah, for
and
sure. But
it just would be curious to know, I'm guessing, maybe this is where you're headed, but how many of those folks would qualify to, or be able to purchase a home in Davidson?
right, I was kind of going there, and yeah, like the diversity is fantastic, and 52% in Davidson's pretty good these days. You know, I know a lot of people are getting priced out, and obviously we always want to see that number going up. People can live close to where they work, and like you said, Chair, probably a lot of people working from home still, so
Yep.
they can not have to come up that 24 corridor from Rutherford.
Yeah.
But
So we'll follow back up with that, obviously, that's not a requirement
Yeah,
of,
no.
I
it's
can
not a
follow back
requirement
up
of the
on
grant, but
Just curious. I
if they're
thought
open
I
to.
might have missed it in the
For
bunch
sure.
of numbers. Yeah.
And then we'll follow back, we'll have Jamari follow back up, and if you guys are comfortable with sharing that, as you have in the past, we'll share that with the board. out of future
Absolutely.
meetings. All right, Metro Finance, is everything in Metro Legal, is everything in order with third-party audit report from KPMG and the settlement on the jobs for Phillips?
I don't know that we're privy to that as far as that report. Was that sent out in an email?
I can speak to.
Yeah, they're,
Yeah, Metro Finance, I think Rhonda may have reviewed it, but it was submitted and everything is in order, so.
okay, so everything's in order? All right, thank you. So I want to make sure. All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the jobs grant incentive payment for Phillips in the amount of $317,500. All right, Vice Chair Haston, thank you. Do we have a second? All right, thank you. Properly seconded. Board Member Davis, any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, motion carried. Please let the record show that the chair abstained. All right, thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
time. Thank you. And again, board, we kind of do this at this time period so that these funds are included in the next fiscal year, and then the companies will receive payment once Metro's new fiscal year starts, which is starts July 1. All right. Moving on to item number 2 of the annual incentive grant payout, we have Alliance Bernstein. This one was approved, I want to say, in 2018 initially, and really great. Well, your previous employees, I remember coming to our meetings then. I want to say myself, Board Member Davis, were you here by then?
Alliance Bernstein.
Oh, you're doing
I was
a
on
do
council.
better bill.
Yeah.
So maybe myself and one other board member. Were you here by then?
2019.
2019. So you,
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I was.
So I guess we have maybe 2 or 3 board members that were here then. But again, just because it's approved at that time is not necessarily when the clock starts. So this is year 2 for Alliance Bernstein. And anyway, I'll turn it over. We have some, if you will, please just introduce yourself, share with us any information that you'd like to, any updates, and then I'll turn it over to the board for questions.
Sounds good. So I'll go first. Is that-
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Carl Sprouls. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Alliance Bernstein. I've been at AB 28 years. I'm 2 years into being the Chief Operating Officer, which is, as you mentioned, you met some of my predecessor, I think, in the initial grant process. I moved here in 2018, and Nashville is my home. So thank you for taking time to listen to us this morning. With me is Paul Emerson. He's our corporate counsel. So as you mentioned, this is the second of 7 payments. And this incentive grant has been very important to Alliance Bernstein. It's been important in us training folks in the local workforce. We spoke a lot last time, I think, about the construction of 5th and Broadway, and we spoke a lot about our move here and why the move, but I figured that today I'd just focus on giving you a quick update on where things are and then answer questions if that works for everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know anything about Alliance Bernstein, we're an investment management and research firm. We're global, 54 offices in 27 countries. We have about 4,200 employees. Nashville's our biggest office. We have just 1,050 employees here in Nashville. It's our head office. Our clients are sophisticated investors, so it could be institutions, governments, high net worth individuals, and we manage about $800 billion of money for those folks. I think I spoke a lot last time about why Nashville, but maybe I'll just say a few things about that. We were founded in New York 50 plus years ago, so relocating here was a big decision for us. When we looked at different places around the country to move, Nashville was the first place to meet all of our goals. And at a high level, those goals were moving to a growing and vibrant city, giving our staff an above average standard of living, being in a city where we could be an employer of choice based on the scale of our business. In terms of how things are going on the hiring and on the build out, we're at scale. 1050 is enough for us to run our business here, but we continue to invest in the talent acquisition process. Most of our employees come directly from education. We have an associate training program, which is a 2-year program that we put a lot of focus into. Once people come into that program, we tend to grow people internally through internal mobility. We've had great success in finding people here, but we do continue to face challenges in the technology and investment areas in terms of finding people with that skill set. And so much of the money that comes to us from you guys is focused on really training people to do those jobs. We continue to add employees in Nashville. We're at phase 9 of our move from New York. There's an additional 23 people who will be moving down before the end of the year. I would imagine there's probably another 2 or 3 phases to come, which would account for about another 60 people that will move down sometime next year. We believe in Nashville. One of the things we heard when we first got here was that you had to be part of the community. We donated $1.2 million $1.2 million to charitable organizations in Nashville last year. Our employees gave another $250,000, and we put over 1,500 hours into local charities. And we've currently got about 100 people serving on boards in the Nashville area, so we're pretty committed. Thanks for the opportunity to present. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. We're proud to call Nashville our home. We know that the commitment that you've made in giving us this money, and we take it seriously, and we want to be an active member of the Nashville community. So maybe I'll stop there and see if you've got any questions.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to your point, I'm just looking at, and I'll turn it over to my colleague for questions, just looking at your report too. I mean, 77% of your employees are in Davidson County. And again, going back to 2018, 2019, your predecessor advised when you all were moving, it was a very concerted and deliberate effort for the executives of your organization to actually live in Nashville, Davidson County.
That's right.
And obviously that's something that I know myself and several other colleagues have always been curious about is, are people living here also? Because obviously they're paying property tax, they're spending their money here, they're truly part of the community. So that effort that was made when you first started the move here is clearly reflected in these figures.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about that, right? So when I moved here, I moved working for the previous COO. Part of the contract of the senior leadership team was to be living in Nashville, to be paying taxes in Nashville, to be Nashville resident. I was living in New York for 18 years. I moved here. This is my home. And that's true of the other senior executives in the firm, and that permeates down throughout the organization. When I talked about those 20 or so folks that are moving this year and the remaining 60 of next year, that's about strengthening that commitment. Right, if I look at what I have in our organization today, I have the senior leaders, I have all the people I just talked about hiring directly from colleges, but I want to make sure I've got the complete arc of leaders all the way through the organization, and we're committed to building that out and committed to building that out in people who actually live here. Yeah, it's important for us. This is our head office, so we have to be able to have a talent pipeline across all functions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And before I have any other final comments, I'll turn it to my colleagues to my left. Any questions or comments?
What struggles are you having with recruiting in the tech field?
That's a good question. So pre-COVID, so let me just take a step back. Our tech is quite specific, right? So we have some general tech, right? We have engineering and people who are building desktops and servers and connecting things to the internet, basic things that other companies would have. But the core technology that we use is quite specific to us. It's around portfolio construction, portfolio optimization, trading, connection to trading networks. So when we try and hire people, it's knowing those technical skills, but also having the domain expertise. So for example, if you're connecting to an exchange to trade equities, most of that's done in the software they use there is Java, and that's a common skill. But understanding what you do on a trading floor, understanding how an exchange works, understanding all the different types of orders you can create, that's a very specific skill. So that's generally the challenge we have. We can find the core skills, but we can't find the domain expertise, and that's why we bring the folks directly in from college and train them that way. The other areas are the same areas that everybody else is struggling with, right? Finding security folks is difficult. Tennessee Tech has been helpful in that regard, but still finding people who have really good skills there is is difficult. We've also had some success on the security side, bringing people who have been coming out of the military. Fort Campbell's been helpful for that as well. So that's been great, but still an area that we struggle. And then I think everybody is sort of grappling with AI and generative AI and the impact that's having on business. And so people with strong skills in that area, again, are hard to find. But I think everybody's struggling with that. I guess the other thing is, as Nashville grows, I'm on the Nashville Technology Council, and I'm sort of, my role there is committed to try and making sure that we get a bigger talent pool of technologists. Right? It can't be the same set of technologists moving to each new company that moves into town, and so expanding the talent pool is important to us as well. Making sure that the Nashville is seen as a place where if you're a technologist, you don't just move to California or to New York. You think about Nashville as well.
Gotcha. Could you elaborate a little bit on those pipelines?
The talent pipelines. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have the associate. So the first way you would generally join AB is in is something we call the associate program, and those programs run in three different parts of our business: technology, operations, and in the investment side of the business. So we go out to colleges, predominantly in Nashville now. That wasn't the case before we moved here, but we try and get the classes filled predominantly by people who are going to school in Nashville and ideally have lived in Nashville. Those classes on the tech and ops side is about between 25 and 30 people coming on the technology side, and on the investment side it's a little lower, it's about 15. Those folks come into a 2-year program. They get a rotation in 4 different parts of our business. So if you're in technology, you may spend some time writing software, you may spend some time in security, some time in engineering. You do those 4 rotations, you get to know us, we get to know you, we teach you a lot about our business along the way. There's classes around all of the things we do. And at the end of that process, you graduate into an open role. So ideally, as we've got people who are leaving the organization, those programs graduate, the graduates of those programs fill our open positions. So that's the sort of basics of the core of that pipeline is people graduating from undergrad. We do have some partnerships where we get people graduating from a business degree. We sold a business recently that took a lot of people in with master's degrees, but that's since gone. But we bring about a smaller percentage of folks there, and then there are other pipelines that are specific. So we have a program called ATP, Athlete Transition Program. So we'll hire people who have been, maybe they played in the NFL for a few years but are no longer able to play for whatever reason, right? Those folks have gone through an incredible amount have needed an incredible amount of focus to get to where they are in their sporting career. We take those people and train them to do things inside of our businesses, or tap into that level of focus. I mentioned Fort Campbell. We've been working with organisations to bring people who are retiring out of the military, and the security space is a good example of that. So that's the baseline, and then once you're in, we tend to ask people to stay in a role for 2 years, but after 2 years, we try and focus on internal mobility. So the goal is to move people up through the organisation, and we've been pretty successful in that. Myself and Paul have both joined. I joined as an associate level. I've gone all the way through the organisation to the chief operating officer. Paul is now the associate general counsel. We've gone. That we believe heavily in sort of promoting from within. Does that help?
Yes.
Kind of, and I mean, that's candidly a rarity and not something that's the norm these days. So that says a lot about your organization. It's a commitment to that.
Yes, we if you look at the statistics changed quite dramatically when we moved here, because we moved about 23% of our employees, so that reset the stats. But most people who are at AB tend to stay for a long period of time. Right? It's a place to have a career.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. Any other questions? All right, thank you for the Board Member Johnson.
He asked a couple of the questions I have. I run a nonprofit organization, and one of your board members has served as our chair. Board members, one of your employees, Dan Wiseman, has been our board treasurer for a very long time.
Is that everything good with the money? No problem.
Oh yeah, I've learned.
Just want to make sure because they're banking. This will be the time to make sure.
I've learned so much about investment accounts.
I can cool down now if you need some.
I mean, at this point,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just, they're banking. I just want to make sure.
No, I'm swimming in financial rhetoric. Thanks.
There you go.
But I do have a question about community impact beyond the numbers. How do you all measure that, such as mentoring, internships, or education partnerships? I hear a lot of conversation about pipeline and struggling to move people through the pipeline.
That's
so I
great.
just wonder if you're leveraging the community impact dollars and numbers to support that.
So I'll give you a good example of one that I believe strongly in, and one that we brought here from New York. So when I was in New York, we noticed that when we were going on campus, meeting kids for the first time to bring them into the associate program, we would generally meet them in their last year. And what you would find is folks already had a connection somewhere, right? And so we built a program in New York to go into high schools and teach kids what we thought was the most general purpose technical skill, which was robotics. Right? It has some electronic engineering, some mechanical engineering, some software engineering, and there was a lot of good good programming there. So we built a program in New York, partnered with 2 schools, and we would bring somewhere between 60 and 80 kids through that program each year, generally in their last 2 years of high school. A number of those kids would then go away to college, work for us as interns in the period, and then come back to AB at the end. We've started that program here with Hume Fogg and another school.
What school was that? I didn't hear you. What was that? I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you.
Did I hit the right? So we started it with Hume Fogg, wonderful school, and
That's right.
we're trying to expand that. And it sort of plays into this narrative of like we have people with strong technical skills, and one of the challenges we hear in the community is hard to get those strong technical skills in the classroom. And so we feel like this model of mentoring and bringing our folks to the classroom has been helpful, both in giving kids an access to things that they might never have seen before, but also bringing those kids into our school. So that's one example of it. But we're committed to like going as deep as we can.
I'd love to learn more about just the impact measures around their program. I only have one more question.
You're fine.
Hearing you talk about your experience with being able to matriculate through the different levels, I wonder, is there a plan for year-over-year tracking for wage growth, retention, advancement, or opportunities? Like, are you able to see people do what you did, and how frequent or prevalent?
We track all of that, and we actually like on the flip side of it, the first reason we track it is what we're trying to avoid is we want to pay for people to advance through the organisation, not pay people to stay in a single role, right? So if you join us and you happen to be in the legal department and you're great at wealth management contracts, like we want you to have the opportunity not to just get paid a little bit more each year doing that. We want you to do that for a couple of years and then go and do something else. So our tracking is actually focused on making sure we actively move people through the organisation. And Kathy Spencer, who's a colleague of Paul and I's, she runs the Human Capital and People organisation. She's here and she tracks that data, shares it with us.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. Any other questions? Board Member Wright, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah. You mentioned before about finding talent pools, and you mentioned universities like Tennessee Tech. And I was wondering, as far as the local colleges like TSU, I remember that this is years ago, they had a program called Inroads, and it was very instrumental when Nissan came to town, getting engineers to work out there through a program that was in the college and then later take on full-time employment.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, since your technology is so specific, are you having a harder time finding that talent in the local, like the Vanderbilt, Belmont, TSU, these institutions?
Yeah, yes, we are. It is hard, and it's predominantly because, like, most of those universities teach the core skills, right? They teach the software engineering, they teach the architecture, they teach the math behind it. What we need is very applied skills, and the thing I could understand why Nissan might be able to do that, right? So if they had people who were in automotive automation or manufacturing, right? They probably need large groups of people. The problem we have is we need a small group of very, very talented people, right? So it's hard to be like, it's hard to have a classroom of people we're going to teach this to because I only need 5 of them, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
So that is a little tricky. The one thing we have done, so we had a partnership with, as I mentioned, we're heavily partnered with the Technology Council. As part of that, there's a Nashville software school. A guy called John Walk runs the software school. You guys may have probably met him in your travels. So that program retrains people. What we did 2 years ago, and maybe 3 years ago now, we asked some of their cohorts of people who wanted to take the program but couldn't afford to take the program for whatever reason. Right, they had to be working and the program was full time. We offered scholarships for folks to take the program and spend some time working with us along the way, and then with the goal of hopefully we would pay them a stipend to be able to live while they were working in the program. We would give them the tools they needed, like you need to get a computer and some other things. And at the end, the hope was that they would come and work for us. We did that for a year, and it worked well. We haven't recommitted to that yet, but that's something we've been thinking about.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, yeah.
Thanks for your question. Any other questions here to my right?
Yeah, I've got one comment and then 2 kind of related questions. First, just again, really want to commend you guys on how you've truly become a part of Nashville. Seeing you guys get involved with great boards, or even see Jim get involved with the Catalyst Fund. Those are huge things in terms of creating. So hopefully other companies that are local or other companies that are hoping to come here can follow your model. So kudos. I guess related to some of the questions regarding what's happened, do you feel like if given the opportunity you would make the same decision and
Move to Nashville?
Yeah.
So, yes, I would say, look, the one thing we didn't, it's a big question to answer because COVID was in the middle, right? And so, I'm going to give you I'm trying to give you as honest an answer as I can, right? So if you think pre-COVID, when everybody worked 5 days a week, 8-hour days inside of different firms, that created a certain pressure for us in New York, right? The core of our employee base weren't living in Manhattan. They were coming in from Long Island or New Jersey or from Westchester, right? So those commutes, when I said about one of the reasons we wanted above average standard of living, those folks were commuting an hour and a half each day, right? So if you've got 3 hours of commuting, that's not a good standard of living no matter what you get. COVID, so one of the things we heard as soon as we moved, with people who moved were like, thank God, like, and people would say Nashville traffic's really bad. They would say, no, it's not. Right? Exactly, it's fine. No, clearly Nashville traffic is a problem we need to solve, but comparatively, right? And so, so that changed things a little bit. I think the pendulum is swinging back towards people being more in person, and so we would definitely make the move again. And we were just chatting to some folks next door who I think are about to come in and see you guys, and they were asking the same thing. Nashville still stands out in terms of if you want a city that is 2 million people, if you take like the population of the sort of surrounding suburbs, there's no city like it that I can think of that has the depth of education. It has disproportionate amount of things because of the entertainment industry, whether it's restaurants, whether it's bands to go see or sports venues. I mean, I still think Nashville punches way ahead of its weight in terms of size and economic size, and so yeah, we would 100% do it again. But like I say, the only caveat being the world changed a bit in the middle there, and no one saw that coming, right? So yeah.
Beautiful. So related to that, you mentioned sort of your challenges in recruitment. How and so hopefully there's some takeaways that we can incorporate into our own local policies to enhance that. How can we as a city increase our value proposition to attract other great companies such as yourself?
I think it's if it's in the financial services or tech space, It really is about the workforce, right? And it's about no one's going to, and it's about being able to look into the community and the education that goes on in the community and seeing like a deep commitment into STEM and tech right the way back to the the start of folks' education. Right, that is if there is a difference here, I see a difference here from what we saw in New York and what you would see here in terms of kids' access to STEM at an early age. And I think that's one of the most important things you can do. I don't think it's easy to do because of the demand for that workforce who tend to go and work rather than teach. And so that was the program I was talking about earlier. We try and use our folks to sort of supplement that. But it's 100% about mostly about workforce, and then I think it's about affordability, and I think you're seeing that change with more higher density housing in downtown. Like when I first got here in 2018, I was making the decision where to live. So I live in Hillwood, but for a minute I'd lived downtown in New York for a long time. I thought maybe I'll live in the Gulch, and but 2018, living downtown was, you can kind of do it, right? But there wasn't a Whole Foods. There wasn't much in the way of like the things you'd expect.
There was no Fifth and Broad.
Right. Exactly. All of the things exactly. So, but now I think like a sort of vibrant downtown where you can live and have a family and sort of spend time, I think is really taking place. And I think that I guess with the development that happens for Oracle, I hope that sort of binds it together as well, right? So I think that the housing and transport, I hope, gets solved somewhat by the density of things, but the education is the biggest priority in my mind.
So I just want to summarize: affordability, transit, education.
Yes. I'm sure there's the top 3 things on your list, right?
Yeah, every mayoral campaign.
Yeah.
Ain't that politicians speak one?
Yeah.
But these guys, you could tell they're not politicians.
No,
they
not at all.
believe it, though. Board Member Davis, obviously this came under the Do Better bill. I want to say this was the first grant,
This
right?
was this in the Amazon?
And then Amazon
too, we
came
did.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Any questions or comments?
No,
And obviously they came through. They decided to still pursue under Do Better.
No, I appreciate you guys have been great partners since the beginning, and it's really nice to get an update from you. I'm sure the wages of the jobs are still just outstanding. I mean, you were always just so far ahead of everyone on that, just with these high level jobs, and then your percentage at Davidson's awesome. Yeah, it's just you guys are doing all the right things, and we appreciate you being in the community and that sort of thing. So it was a really good model of like how to do one of these deals well, so.
Yeah, no, it's been wonderful for us too.
And lastly, I'll just add, certainly just, and you all can take a look, it's in the packet information, but you can take a look at their jobs and how many percentages are above the Nashville median wage for each title. So, obviously your organization is exceeding that. And the only comment I would also make, obviously, I know what downtown was like years ago. Not too long ago, but it's a few years ago, was not what it is today. I actually had the opportunity to talk to some students at Hume Fogg, and one of the things we talked about was how downtown has changed and transformed, and the city of Nashville hasn't. And one of the reasons I enjoy serving on this board, because I believe in economic development, I believe in job growth, and that's what's like you all coming here and choosing to make Nashville your home has continued to diversify our economy. No more is Nashville, and obviously we're still always going to have that music piece, but we've got healthcare, and this big banking investment firm from New York decided to make Nashville its home, and so that certainly helped broaden us. And when you think about Fifth and Broad and the amount of people, I was there for lunch not too long ago for a meeting. It's amazing to see how many people are there. And I know there's people that are just coming to Nashville on a random Wednesday just because I got that. But also, your workers, your employees are there. It's great to see. So thank you. All right, Metro Legal. Is everything in order with their third party audit report and the settlement statement for Alliance Bernstein?
Sure, that is correct. They have provided the information to Metro Finance and Metro Legal, and we have reviewed and think everything is in order.
All right, so as you can see, it's 1,050 jobs that qualify, and that's $500 per job. So I will entertain a motion to approve the annual incentive grant payout for Alliance Bernstein in the amount of $525,000. Board Member Wright?
Second.
All right, Board Member Wright, seconded by Vice Chair. Thank you, properly seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carried. Please let the record show the chair abstained. Thank you all for your time. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 4, Emerging Industry Business Development Grant, consideration of approval of Rock Nashville properties. Before we get into this, just again, quick overview. This is essentially a pass-through grant from the state. Again, as state law requires, even though these are state funds, not Metro funds, these funds have to go to the IDB, and the IDB then passes those funds off to the company. And again, there will be 3 documents that we'll be considering for approval here shortly. And we do have some representatives from Rock Nashville. I think it's a 55-acre development, over 500,000 square feet. So we'll do this. We'll let them give us an overview, representatives from the state on this project. And then if anyone has any questions, we'll bring in Metro Legal, who has also reviewed these documents. So if you all will introduce yourselves.
I'm Bob Raines. I'm the Executive Director for the Tennessee Entertainment Commission.
And I'm Jimmy Wheeler, Director of Business Development for the Tennessee Entertainment Commission.
All right, awesome. Thank you all for being with us. We've been great partners with the state and a lot of the work that we're doing. So read a lot about Rock Nashville, really excited about it. Huge development out in Whites Creek, but tell us more, and then I'll open it up to my colleagues for questions.
Yeah, so Rock Nashville, it's a live entertainment production facility, and it's going to be a partnership between Rock Lidditz. Rock Lidditz is a company that is in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. And so it's going to be between Rock Lidditz, Soundcheck, and Claire Global. And they're going to offer state-of-the-art facilities to collaborate, build, and rehearse events here in Nashville. So the live entertainment production industry, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So when you think of any kind of live event, that could be music touring, that could be Broadway events, that could be kind of brand experience marketing events. They all sort of go to these facilities to do show design. They can do lighting design, audio, rigging, transportation. So just think of if you're Taylor Swift and you need to have your huge stage set up and you've got to go through everything, right, to go on a world tour. This is going to be the place where you can do that. Obviously, these companies hire a very broad range of employees, creatives, engineers, manufacturers, come into this space. With Rock Nashville, this will put us in an extremely competitive place in the live entertainment production world. We are definitely going to own the space for the Southeast, because there's not really anything like this out west. And of course, there's the Lidditz in Pennsylvania, but it's 2 hours in the middle of nowhere. And Nashville has the logistics for when they get their tour going, they're able to come out from Nashville and go on tour, just logistically where we're set at. There's also the hospitality part of this as well. All the crews that come in and do this, they're going to need hotels because these crews are huge when they come in. I mean, it's hundreds of people coming in. They're going to want to be at hotels or restaurants, so there's the hospitality aspect this company will bring here as well. And so the campus will be 55 acres. It's 609,000 square feet of production space. What we are incentivizing are going to be really the 2 arenas. So what makes this special is that there's going to be 13 band rehearsal studios, but there's going to be 2 production rehearsal arenas, and that's for your big rock arena rehearsal stuff that's going to be here. So that's going to bring all of your international artists here to set up their tours. There's going to be artist relation offices there. There's going to be an industry collaboration spaces as well on this campus. Some general economic impact, there's about $150 million in capital investment coming in for this project. Around maybe $30 million in annual salaries will be generated from this. $20 million in guest spending will be generated out of this. Those numbers are coming out probably from their rock lidits. So it could change. About 35 companies are going to locate on campus. So what they'll do is they'll bring in all their vendors. So imagine everybody that services these
They're all
companies.
right there, so if
They're
you
all
need
gonna,
it.
yeah, they're all going to be
Yeah.
right there. So we have 35 companies coming in on this campus. So that's going to be additional companies sort of coming into our ethos here. And you're probably looking upwards of around 500 employees that will ultimately come in at the end of the day. There'll also be workforce training opportunities with this as well. I mean, this is a great opportunity to train up. Rock Liditz has experience in doing this in Pennsylvania right now. A couple programs that they have is one called the Rock Box program, and it focuses on middle school and with more interactive and classroom activities to increase the visibility for students to see this type of work. So they've got this program already in place. They want to bring it here to our middle school in the area. And then they have another thing called Academy of Live Technology, which they use. And basically that's just trade education and job training, on-the-job training through Rock Liditz, through Rock Nashville, because you're going to have an entire place there where you can learn how to do it on the job, right there. So very excited about this project being here. We think that, again, this will bring us to be extremely competitive in the United States for live production.
There'll also be storage capabilities there as
There'll
well
be
for
storage
folks, right?
capabilities there.
Equipment, everything.
Yep. And so sound check, you guys know sound check probably. Obviously the family of the Jumpers, they're involved in this. They are big partners with Rock Liditz in this. And they've been here forever. And then we've also got Claire Global, which is like one of the biggest sound, capability companies in the world. And so,
And same developer, I think we're about to hear from here shortly. Maris is involved in this project, correct?
which one?
Maris
Yeah.
Yeah.
AI,
used to be formerly AI.
Oh yes, that's right. Yep, they are. Yep, they're
All
involved
right.
in this as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that information. I'll start here to my right. Again, it's the state grant, but before we get to actual grant, any questions for them about the project in general? Start here with Board Member Wright.
Okay, so you mentioned that Mirrors is actually the development company that's going to be doing the project.
The construction firm.
Construction.
Construction.
Yeah, they're coming before us shortly.
Okay,
also.
okay. Trying to make sure I'm looking at the right thing here. Okay.
This is Rock Nashville.
Right,
We're on
okay.
item 5, emerging industry
Skip.
business development.
Okay, just the grant part. Okay, I kind of, when you said that, I was like, okay, great.
This is the Rock Nashville.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that sounds very, no. Trying to see now do I have a question now?
We can come back to you.
Come back to me, okay.
Any questions or comments?
Great project.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how maybe they might be involved with the local community. I remember the rezoning for this property was a little bit contentious. So just understanding how we can hopefully get more local jobs, filling those jobs that are going to be there. And then
You want to let
yeah,
them
go
answer
ahead.
first?
Yeah, I mean, our conversation from the beginning with them is that they are going to look locally. I mean, that is because they don't want to take from their workforce in Pennsylvania because that's going to stay up there. So they're going to be looking here to pull. And the good thing is that I think with the Jumpers being a part of this, Soundcheck being a part, they already have a great partner that knows the community and is able to then have that pipeline of people coming in. And their other big thing is they want to collaborate with schools, and so I think we've got a great partner here that's going to go into the community, hire out of the community, but then try to get those pipelines set up for our schools.
they've already met with Metro Nashville Public School System.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple music theme pathways, I guess, in MNPS. So I think
Yeah,
there could be a lot
MNPS
of
has a new, so they have different tracks that are not traditional educational tracks. And so Rock Nashville's, when they get in here, they're going to create a touring track specifically for the high school kids, middle and high school kids as they go through the system. If they choose they want to take the live event track, then Rock Nashville will be a part of that.
Gotcha.
Do you have one more question
one
or
more
comment before I go to board member Davis?
It's great that it's producing all those jobs and can, I guess, diversify and deepen our Music City brand here. I'm curious about the adaptability of the facilities, so maybe we could also compete for maybe some film things as well compared to like Atlanta.
Yeah. So they've been pretty upfront with us that this isn't going to be film and television. They've
This is music. Let's
This
go.
is music. They're already booked out for 3 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
they haven't
great.
started yet. There's just so much demand for
Especially in this area.
Yeah,
Perfect for it.
I did ask. I was hoping we would have that capability. You know, obviously doing film and television myself, I was really hoping we'd have that, but they've been upfront with us.
All good.
Board member Davis, any question or comments?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Soundcheck's like a fourth or fifth of the square footage of this campus or something. So they're kind of coming in right away and just running their business. Is that
So the lower 13 rehearsal spaces are going to be branded as Soundcheck. The campus itself will be Rock Nashville, but Soundcheck's not going to lose their branding as they've been around for some
forever? Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
trust
that
that
can
brand.
give you a nice start as far as like you're talking
Correct.
about the local
Yeah.
pipeline of
Right.
employees and.
Yeah, the nice thing is that they didn't come in and just take Soundcheck out of business. They actually partnered with Soundcheck to continue so Soundcheck can continue to do their business.
Right, because they weren't going to be on, what is it, Cowan or whatever?
Yeah, Blue Oval's going to go there, right?
So, yeah, no, not Blue Oval, Oracle.
Oracle.
But yeah, so
Oracle.
Soundcheck
Blue
is
Oval's, that's
basically
west.
picking up and moving their operation to Rock Nashville.
Cool. This is random, but I mean, is there ever, it's such a huge campus, is there ever potential for housing or anything out there, or is it just going to always be commercial?
I think, there have been some conversations about the housing. The problem is that they tried to find 20 acres. They only ended up
With
with
55, right?
Yeah, and so, but I think the acres are sitting on is about 80 is what they have. So they did buy a little bit up, and one of their things is that they did talk about the house, because they've got to be able to house folks. But at the end of the day, Nashville's so close. I'm assuming that for the time being,
People, yeah,
they're just going to use here. But they did have that aspiration with the campus for the.
Yeah,
Lidditz has its own hotel on it.
Yeah, they've got their own.
Rock Lidditz has a hotel on it.
Oh, really?
But
Yeah.
but Lidditz is very rural.
Right, in
unlike,
Pennsylvania.
there's hotels right down the road.
Well, you only need like one of these acres. These guys are putting like so many units on like an acre, so out of your 80, 55 are all commercial. That's plenty of opportunity. But also, you guys are near West Trinity, and there's like some thousands of units coming on. But I do think it's going to spur other things if y'all don't do it yourselves. I mean, for sure. So,
Absolutely. Economic impact.
yeah,
There we
it
go.
will for sure.
Any questions here or comments here to my left? All right, Board Member Johnson, start with you.
I'm just wondering what commitments has Rock Nashville made to engage local, particularly, marginalized artists and vendors? Are there any commitments or any,
There haven't been any specific discussions on their commitments, with that, other than their commitments to hire locally. I mean, that has always been their,
I had another question. I wrote it down, sorry.
Yep.
And will there be public access to the studios and programs, or will it just be private enterprise use only?
I think it's going to be private.
It's going to be private for the most part, but they're going to have programs that are going to be open to, your local school system, and as far as like outreach for them, I could see where that will be an important part of what they do is independent outreach, and I think where they're located is going to lend itself to helping out those underserved areas for sure.
And I know that this is in Whites Creek 37207 area, and that area tends to be very minority based. So I'm wondering what type of communal benefit would exist or could exist, and has there been any intention to engage the homeowners in that area outside of just public comment?
That we don't know. We don't know if there's been any outreach as far as like in the community from Rock Lidditz or the construction or the builders yet.
I will add that Councilmember Toombs has worked with Rocklytics, and
Okay.
so she is having ongoing conversations with them.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. You,
Yeah,
board,
kind of.
board member Wright, you ready now?
Okay, yeah, the acreage was kind of throwing me off, and then I was kind of mixing two projects together. So I know exactly where you guys are located now, and I have property around that area. So kudos to the development. I was wondering what was going to happen with all that property at vacant land. So
Were you the one yelling at the community meeting?
No, that wasn't me.
Causing trouble? Was that?
That wasn't me.
Does he look familiar?
No, so that's a great project because I have been wondering. I had property over there for years and wondering what was going to happen to that vacant land. So no, I have no issues with it. I think it should have been, commercial with everything else going around. I was thinking about a question my fellow board member did ask about the possibility of housing, but there's not a lot of housing around there. But you do have access, and it's not far away from, like, say, Trinity Lane and all those developments going on. So since that's happening, I wouldn't. That is. Well, I'm real anxious to see this campus. I really am now. I really am. So yeah, I like the project. Sounds good.
Yeah. You got land over there?
Yeah. Nothing personal.
You said that.
Nothing
You said
personal.
that. Just repeat it. All right. So, again, this grant is not to exceed $5 million. Is correct? I'll turn to you, Metro Legal. You've reviewed all the documents. Everything's in order.
That is correct. As you mentioned at the beginning, this is a pass-through grant, so the IDB serves solely as a pass-through. There are 3 documents that are going to be approved by the IDB. There's a grant agreement between the state and the IDB. There is a separate grant agreement that's between the IDB and Rock Nashville. And there's the accountability agreement, which is with all 3 parties. And so these are pretty routine. I think most board members here have done the pass-through grants before, so are probably familiar with the process, but we reviewed and everything's in order.
All right. Thank you for that. With that, I will entertain a motion to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I gotta. Sorry, gotta do some
Get some
technical.
my bad.
Yeah, I gotta be technical for the lawyers in here. I will entertain a motion to approve the grant contract between the IDB and Rock Nashville Properties LLC. The grant contract between the state and the Industrial Development Board, and the accountability agreement between the state, the Industrial Development Board, and Rock Nashville Properties LLC for Rock Nashville Properties LLC. Is there a motion to approve? All right, Board Member
Second.
Rodriguez. All right, properly seconded by Board Member Davis. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, motion carried. Let the record show the chair abstained. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Oh, and lastly, is it still set to open later this year?
Yeah, November.
Fall, yeah.
All right, if you will, please, and obviously, our executive director is in conversation with the state on routinely, but please let him know when you all have a grand opening celebration. It's obviously not a requirement, but we do like to make sure that board members are aware of that in case their schedules allow and able to come. So, it's great to see the projects versus just hearing about them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, thank you both for your time.
I want to put down some tracks.
All right, moving on to item number Moving on to item number 6, items for consideration for approval, Rivergate Mall redevelopment TIF project. Again, quick overview. This board in the past has completed and approved a couple of TIF deals, one being the Bellevue Mall redevelopment, which I remember what that mall was like, and I saw the decline, and then I saw what it is today. So that's one example. Several years ago, we approved Oracle, which is also a TIF deal, and then obviously just a couple of years ago, at the end of 2022, and then we had to do an amendment in 2023 for Madison Station. So this is for Rivergate Mall. Quick overview: Industrial Development Board corporations are authorized to prepare and submit economic impact plans to metropolitan governments. IDB Act also gives cities, counties, and metropolitan governments the authority to pledge new incremental tax revenue arising from the redevelopment subject to the economic impact plan to pay the cost of projects and public infrastructure or to pay the debt service on bonds or other obligations. Tax increment financing is the amount that taxes increase due to the proposed project and/or development. This future stream of payments works as collateral for a loan to provide financing upfront to complete the project. And then lastly, as this overview of the TIF process today, what will be before this board is the economic impact plan and development agreement. If this board does approve this today, it then goes to Metro Council for approval. With that, we have several guests here to talk to us about this. So I'll first turn it, and we have the local council member as well. Do you want to?
Just want to say that I'm.
Yeah, we'll turn it over to. Will you introduce yourself?
I'm Jennifer Webb. I'm District 10 councilperson.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, and I just want to thank y'all for your time. Thank Mr. Mendez and Chris for what they've done to put this job together, and Jamara, wherever he is over there. And it'll be a great economic impact on our area out there, and I'm 100% for support of it.
Yes, thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing your support. And I think what this comes down to is what's the highest and best use for that property at this point. All right, and I think we have some representatives from Maris as well.
Yes, may I approach the board?
Yes, and after you pass that out, please introduce yourself for us. Thank you.
Absolutely. I have more skill for y'all this morning.
And if you will give us some quick background, obviously y'all just did a rebrand on your name, but
Yep,
maybe give us some quick background.
You're taking my notes right out of my mouth, Chair.
It's a lot of paper.
It's a big press. I like color prints.
I didn't know exactly how. I don't know where the best place to stand is here. I know exactly how the.
And then you all.
Might the audience have one?
They're really for the board right now. If there's something that you like after, if you're
that'd be
request, we'll discuss. But
And I did.
of course.
Do you want to be on the camera? Is that why you're standing? Right
Oh, I'm just standing.
here? You can stand right here in the middle if you
I don't
want.
want to give my back to anybody here, so
Okay, you're fine. Wherever you're comfortable.
I appreciate it, and I'll move around. Yeah.
You're like me. I like to walk around.
Let's walk.
It's hard to sit here. Well, please introduce yourself.
Yes,
Turn it
yes.
over to you.
Thank you, members of the board, for your consideration of this request and moving this project forward. I am Kate Jarash, Director of Real Estate Development for Maris here in the Nashville office. I also want to sincerely thank the mayor's office for their careful review and for their working so diligently with us over the last 6 months. We are incredibly excited to be at this point. They shared our vision and saw the need and opportunity to create a community asset.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
Getting it.
We went through this in training. I apologize.
They shared our vision and saw the need and opportunity to create a community asset from a declining property through this public and private partnership. Today I will introduce you to Maris. I'll introduce you to the Rivergate project and discuss the next steps with your support to make this project a reality. So if you want to turn to the first page of my very large slide deck here. It's large for the pictures, not for the Who is Maris.
It was worth glasses, so
Yay!
that's good.
So who is Maris, for those of you who are not familiar? We're a 130-plus-year-old company founded in Cincinnati, where we are still headquartered. We have offices in 4 major markets: Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Raleigh, and of course Nashville. We've been in Nashville since 2015 and have developed over 6.6 million square feet in that time, whether it be multiple solutions for Vanderbilt Medical, industrial solutions for REI, LBA, Simpson Strong Tie, rooms to go, as well as office building at Mallory Lane and multifamily at the Hickory at Indian Lake Village out in Hendersonville. Current projects underway, some of our major projects right now is the multifamily at the Aspire Midtown and of course Rock Nashville.
Yep.
So let me turn to the next page.
You all are, I was going to say, you all are, even though you're new here, you obviously really jumping in, being part of the community. I saw that you all, I was at the ULI Awards a few weeks ago. And
Did you partake in a Maris margarita?
Um,
Off the record.
No, it was I think it was like a Wednesday night or something.
was.
So, no, I think I just had water, but the people at my table, I think they did.
A little bit of levity. So back to the project at hand. If you've been to this area anytime recently, these pictures come as no surprise. Obviously, malls are a dying breed in this country. We have a couple of exceptions here in Nashville, but they are just that. They are exceptions. The present existing conditions of the vacant storefronts, the vacant boxes are common across the country. There were 2 major move-outs pre-COVID, I think that's very important, pre-COVID at this mall that really kind of sparked that decline. The first was Sears moved out in 2019 after over 30 years of being open and operating at that site. Second was Macy's. Macy's announced their exit at the beginning of 2020 after 49 years open and operating between Bean Casternauts and Macy's. Malls have that decreasing appeal for both tenants and for shoppers. The mall currently is less than 29% occupied. Less than 29% occupied. Yep. And the occupants there are not your traditional mall type tenants either. So that includes the tenants that are there. Obviously, with that decreasing mall occupancy, with that decreasing mall sales, comes a decrease in sales tax revenue that the city and the county have seen, and as the mayor so eloquently put in his release, a decrease in property tax by over $10 million over the last 10 years. It's not nothing where we stand today. So that was then and now. Let's move on to the future. So what you have before you on the next 2 pages, I want you to stay on the plan for a second because I want to introduce the plan, and then you can look at the pretty pictures of how that plan becomes a reality. The project is 56.49 acres to be redeveloped, the 1971 mall, the abatement, the demolition, the site grading, utility relocation, and or new install, and road infrastructure, lighting, and landscaping. The uses that you see on that page follow the One Bellevue as an example of a successful mall redevelopment, that mix of uses, that symbiotic relationship for a successful master plan. The completed project will be a unique mix of uses. Maris will self-develop some of them, and then sell pads and work with other developers that have expertise in those different asset classes to develop the remainder of them. At the end of the day, the use mix will be commercial, retail, food and beverage, hospitality, office, medical office, multifamily rental, sports and entertainment. There are 2 uses that I would like to highlight for you in the project. The first is transit, and if you're looking at your page, it is on Plan Northeast. Yep, sorry, right there. We're excited to work with WeGo to create a highly desirable transit stop on a new circulator route that they are creating, bringing riders from Goodlettsville and surrounding areas to the site. The bus service will be highly utilized by workers on site and downtown, as it will also be walkable access to the new Gallatin Road BRT. It will also be highly utilized by folks that will be coming to the site for the shops, the restaurants, the entertainment, and by residents to commute downtown for work, for pleasure, for play, and for special events. When we first started discussing this with WeGo, we got very excited, as did they, to truly connect Goodlettsville to the core of downtown. The second use that I call your attention to is the Senior. It is just to the north of Dillard's. You see Senior 4-story? This Senior, the proposal here looks to provide a desirable, fiscally affordable housing option that is not currently available in the area for the active senior population and the aging population that will soon be those seniors. We are working with a prospective developer who has accomplished the same product and programming in North Carolina and is excited to bring that very concept here. The likely developer visited the site last month, and while in town, met with the Barnes Fund and with a potential non-for-profit partner as they build their capital stack locally. Currently, they are in the process of hiring their consultants and are preparing for the next rounds of the 4% and 9% credit applications. As you know from the agreement that you have before you, that they need to go through those, so they are trying to get into that process as quickly as possible. Mall redevelopments are more expensive and a heavier lift than traditional development due to demolition costs and infrastructure relocations required. Obviously, the 1970s code was slightly different than it was today,
and the utilities that are located surrounding the mall, through the parking lots, and here, a storm that goes literally under the mall, make it a lot heavier lift and a lot more expensive. Now that we are redeveloping the site, that redevelopment means that the spaghetti of the utilities need to be cleaned up. We are unable to do a project like this without a public-private partnership, and we are incredibly thankful for the city and IDB's consideration of a TIF. Beyond the benefits that I've discussed so far, and as described in the Economic Impact Plan, there are additional benefits: property tax increase, sales tax increase, occupancy tax increase, and of course, jobs, 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 which drive all of the above to increase. And last but not least, I want to address the next steps, should we be successful. In underwriting this project, we found that there was a $29 million gap in our underwriting to make this a truly financeable project. In the current lending environment, as noted in the economic plan that you have before you, the $42 million cap of increment that you are considering today garners us approximately $22.5 million of the $25 that is needed. This is absolutely a reality and not a complaint whatsoever. We are incredibly thankful for the support of getting us 80% of the way there. To achieve the remainder of the funding need, we have two options. The first is to request an additional TIF from the city of Goodlettsville, supported by their city tax. The second is to create an infrastructure district. So with negotiations completed here with Metro, we looked into the newly created infrastructure district, thanks to the state law. Upon investigation into the new infrastructure district, carrying the full gap became a concern to us as far as tax burdening those end developers, and thus looking at their underwriting and making sure that they could underwrite and the saleability of those to make this a successful project. As we self-develop, as others buy off and develop, we wanted to make sure that they were underwriting and they would be successful as well. Therefore, we approached the city of Goodlettsville and requested a TIF. We have not yet come to the final terms yet, but we have a meeting notice for the end of the month for when we do. This falls in line for us to meet our notice deadline to the sellers that we are moving forward with the project. It, however, is not out of the question that we will be also doing an infrastructure district, depending on how our financing comes down, to make sure that we do have all of the needs for this project to be successful. With that, I thank you for your time and your attention, your consideration of this matter, and I would turn it over to Bob.
Before we do that, before I turn it over to Bob, I do need to share, I do have an indirect, I just looked at it because I'm looking at your drawings. I do have an indirect conflict because my spouse is employed at Smith G Studio, so I just need to share that for the record.
You're amazing.
Just no comment, I guess.
I've set you up twice today, sorry, Chair.
So just to be clear too, so at this time, which creates the timing, you do not own the project. You have not closed yet. You are under contract, so obviously there's some deadlines there.
Yes, there is.
Before we turn to Bob, I want to turn over to my colleagues, see if they have any questions before we get into the TIF piece just about the project. But I do appreciate you sharing what you did and about the development, because I've been to Rivergate, and you're exactly right. It's very consistent with Hickory Hollow, where I grew up, with Bellevue as well. Once some of those big anchor tenants left, it's a domino effect. You need the anchors. And again, to me, what this comes down to is what's the highest and best use for this property at this point. So thank you for sharing. Before we get into the TIF piece, because Chief Development Officer Bob Mendez is going to walk us through that, let's first, if there's any questions for the developer just about the design or any questions on what you heard, let's start with that first before we get into the nuts and bolts of the TIF piece. So I'll start here to my right. Any questions or comments, Board Member Wright?
Yeah. Sorry to see Rivergate go. The mall, that was my old stomping ground when I was coming up, but
1970.
I ain't trying to tell my age. I know I dated myself, but that was the mall when I was younger. Yeah. I was
Chuck Taylor's.
I'm glad, because when I go out there, you know, I've been looking at this mall at this rate. I mean, just going to whatever at this point. So I'm glad to see something purposeful is being put there and the mall is going away. So I'm all about the project. when I look at some of the design elements, I see a lot of residential, which I'll be kudos on. Great for that because it seems like you're hitting a lot of. We have the. I'm not sure about the. Well, let me ask you this. I understand so you have the senior here.
Yeah.
The residential units.
Yes.
What are we talking about here? What type of units are we talking about?
Yep, so we have a mix.
Okay.
You know, again, trying to hit all the different levels, right? So we have a mix of rental, so you have your market rate apartments, but then you also have a for sale townhouse product.
Okay, townhouse. Okay.
Mixed income, mixed range, the whole gamut.
Size of units. You said, okay, so some apartments.
Yes.
2, 3, 4 bedrooms.
One bed den and 2. Townhouses will be 2, 3 bed, maybe some 4s, depending what the developer wants to do.
Okay. One more question.
Yeah, of course.
I won't take up the whole time. As far as you guys are the master developer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to actually sell off parts and there'll be other developers come on board, or you're going to use several different contractors?
Yep, so we will self-develop some of the uses,
Okay.
and then we will sell off the pads to additional developers that have an expertise, whether it is in the senior, or whether it is in the hospitality, or the retail.
So we don't know who those will be at this time, because you're still trying to acquire the property,
Yes.
go on the plan,
Yes.
get the TIF, all that. So yeah, I won't go that deep on it yet.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, pending the outcome of the TIF, I mean,
Right.
like I said, but for the TIF,
Yes.
it's not a project. You know, we have significant interest in the townhouse and the sports entertainment, the multifamily, the
Okay.
senior, obviously, as I spoke to. So we really be working hard on the hospitality and retail.
Okay, great. And you're bringing a lot of jobs too.
Yes, sir.
That's beautiful. That is what we need.
And we are currently, thank you, we are currently bouncing back and forth between Goodlettsville, well, Goodlettsville's done now, but between Goodlettsville and Metro for our rezone. So we are,
Okay.
most of the way will be done next
You all were at
Tuesday.
council this was for zoning, right?
Yep,
Last week
so
at
we did our
council,
second reading last
which
week.
passed
Yep.
at Metro Council.
Because the line goes through the mall, doesn't it?
It's right here. It's
Yeah,
this
the
red
line.
line.
Yeah, the line. Yeah, I remember that was the
Yep.
silliest thing I ever seen in my life when I first heard about that a long time ago.
Yeah,
the
we're
line
gonna-
actually goes through the mall.
We're going to work to keep our buildings out of crossing.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, that's all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, we still have to get into the TIF piece. Any questions or comments?
I do. Just a few questions. I know we're going to talk deeper about the TIF in general, but I just want to make sure I heard it right. So, but for you need a TIF from Nashville, a TIF from Goodlettsville, and you're looking into Rita?
We would, yes. We would also set
All
up.
three?
Yeah, we would set up the infrastructure district. It's just a matter of how much that infrastructure district holds. So trying to maximize the taxes that are already paid by those properties before burdening them further.
Okay. So, even if we approve today, there's still risk that those other groups or the infrastructure district could fall through and the project falls through.
I wouldn't say the project falls through. I would say that we would get additionally creative. The TIF today is the major piece. You know, what I say was 80% get us 80% of the way there. So today really moves it.
And the share between Nashville and Goodlettsville, can you break down that in terms of?
I don't, the share of the TIF, I don't have final terms from Goodlettsville, so I don't know what they are offering yet.
Okay, got it.
Which is why the infrastructure district is still out there as a possibility.
And again, to clarify today, this is step one. So this still has to go to
Sure.
Metro Council. So there's
Totally. Lots of other
uncertainty.
steps.
That's
Yes.
right.
Just trying to figure out who's moving where and what. Can you talk more about the timing of each of the different uses on the property of when that might come online?
Yeah. So from the word go, we would likely be starting from west to east, just by virtue of, you know, the way that the mall is set up and, you know, the tenants, you know, doing what they need to do to get out of there. The entirety of the project that the TIF is related to today, right? So the entirety of the horizontal is about 14, 16 months worth of work if I were to do it, you know, all through not stopping.
Okay. So you would then your timing relay into, you're going to sell off individual pieces starting west to east as well, so you probably wouldn't sell pieces that are at the part of the mall now, is what you're saying?
I wouldn't be able to close. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't, you know, get them under PSA.
Got it, okay.
Can you speak to some of the non-residential retail uses? I mean, just to try to understand the wages that might be generated by these jobs.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a mix, and obviously up to the retail developers that have more expertise, but it's gonna be a mix of your food and bev. It's gonna be a mix of soft retail, those type of service-oriented uses.
And
Is what we envision. I mean, it's really up to the developer.
And what about the sports and entertainment? Can you speak more about what is envisioned for that particular parcel?
Yeah.
And the timing?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, as you saw with Century Farms, where Tiger Woods did the Pop Stroke Golf, it's that family-oriented entertainment that, brings folks to the site to do that, but they're also, going to the retail, they're also going to the food and bev, and maybe they live there. It's one of those things that it really is a community-building type of entertainment use.
Gotcha. And flexibility on this, can you speak to some of the flexibility of the zoning, like as capital markets change, how this site plan may or may not change, and how our proposed TIF structure may have to change or adapt with that?
Yeah, so in moving through the zoning process, we set bulk standards, so not to exceed this many units and not to exceed that much square footage, just to be able to, as you're absolutely right, as markets change, we may need to have this one get larger, this one get smaller, but we are well within what we would be approved for.
Gotcha. Can you speak to how opportunity zones may be influencing the timing and how you're thinking about the development? I know the Nashville site is in the opportunity zone, but the Goodlettsville site is not. Is that somehow influencing?
It is not, because it is not for the full site.
Gotcha. Okay. I may have more questions about the TIF, but that's it for me.
Yeah, we'll get, Chief Mitch, you're gonna get to that. All right, Board Member Davidson, any question or comments?
Just thankful to finally do something on this site as well. Certainly trust, Mayor's office, council member, and you guys all working together. It looks like you've been working on this a long time. One thing I do like, I'll comment on, is it seems like a good amount of green space. I mean, I would just say as much as you can. I do feel like One Bellevue just has like one little field, and it's like nothing. There's nowhere to hang out. There's just like one spot, and so.
Unless you're at Honey Fire, the pizza place, right?
That's the one.
Yep.
That's the only one. That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, and so like you've got one that's that plus this whole other one plus another one. I mean, just as much as you can, because I feel like you'll get more of the family congregation and
100%.
stuff with that.
100%. And that's what we really we doubled down on that community green space. Wanting to be at a place to organize. There is a jewel box in the middle of it, so think Jenny's Ice Cream from McEwen. Everybody asked me what it would look like, something like that will bring folks to the site, whether they're visiting grandma or they're, they live in the townhouses or they're at friends. It really is a community gathering. Jenny's?
Oh, so you already have them secured.
I do not. I said
announcement? Yeah.
Do not. That was not an announcement.
All right, maybe I'm just hungry.
Yeah. There's a spot for that kind of.
There's a spot for that. Everybody asked me, how big is it? It's like Jenny's Ice Cream at McEwen.
We got you.
Okay.
Just as an example.
Jenny's, if you're interested.
Yeah, that's right.
That's cool. No, it's neat, and then so in general, it looks great. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Here's my left. Any questions or comments about the development itself, not details on the TIF? Go ahead.
So just one question, and just kind of like an inquiry, or maybe you can shed some light on it. I see a lot of families living in apartment homes, and even townhomes and whatnot. Just affordability by home, it's just not there. But does it ever cross like a developer's mind to have like a school pickup zone for children that makes it more safe? That's just something that I think should be kind of more normalized and more seen out there.
Sure.
So I don't know. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah.
If there's
I mean,
that's possible, not in this project, obviously you guys have done a lot of work, but maybe going forward, maybe that's standard, having in apartment homes and townhomes, allowing traffic to flow by as well, and so.
Yeah, absolutely. We would take it definitely. I mean, obviously, I have kids, so it's very much, something on my mind as well. I mean, there's plenty of room if we were to do something like that here. Really, just take it under consideration. Thank you for that.
Okay. And the second thing is, this is a massive project. So, and then you said that there was going to be multiple contractors, so subcontracted out and whatnot. So with that, there is a lot of chance for mishaps and certain things going on. So what would be your stance if, a worker gets hurt and nothing's being done about it, or wage theft on the project because it is a massive project. You know, it's just those things occur in the construction industry. We've seen it all over Nashville. But I just want to know what your stance would be going forward with the contractors that you subcontracted out to.
Yeah, I mean, for the self-developed sites that we have, Marist has an impeccable record with OSHA and don't plan to mess with that anytime soon. And the folks that would be purchasing the other parcels, you know, it would be up to them to deal with that as well, obviously with our oversight to make sure that it does not, you know, mess with the project.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Board Member Rodriguez. Board Member Johnson, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple of questions. I'm trying to figure out which ones go to who. But I'll ask you a couple of my community engagement questions.
Sure.
What community engagement has already taken place in Madison and in Goodlettsville, and how are you planning to continue that as the plans get redefined?
That would probably be me, and I've had lots of meetings on it. I've posted it on all the HIPs, and right now it has all been positive. No negative whatsoever. Everybody wants jobs there. Everybody wants restaurants there. We're praying the Lord we get restaurants. And I stay very, very engaged with my community.
Okay. I know that you support it, and I think this is amazing. It has the potential to be transformative. I'm wondering, is there anything in place to ensure that small and minority-owned businesses can also access that commercial space, especially as it's being redeveloped?
Well, just so you know, I'm a small business owner too.
Okay.
So I support small business like over the top because I am a small business. I hope that, you know, that would be up to them, not really to us, but, you know, I think we all are small business oriented on this area.
And local.
And local.
And local, okay. So trust but verify, Councilwoman.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, I think, I think the rest of these are for Bob.
Great.
All right. Thank you. Great questions, Board Member Johnson.
Quick little question.
Yeah.
Oh, I had one more thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought you mentioned healthcare, and is there medical facility potential and then childcare potential?
There is a medical office building is one of the uses. You know, like I said, we do have the history with Vanderbilt, but that is not, again, not an announcement.
Yeah.
But that would be something that we would likely self-develop and work with, you know, whoever the end user would be. You said childcare?
Childcare is just as a.
It could be in any one of these uses. You know, a number of these uses are that 7,000 to 10,000 square feet, which is the right size for a good, you know, 70-plus child daycare center. I've been through too many of these with my own children, but really, obviously, that is a concern to make sure that that is addressed if it so could be.
A lot of demand out there.
A lot of demand out there.
Demand. Someone can make money on.
I'll come back to you.
For sure.
Did you have a question on something
Yeah,
you
yeah,
said? All right,
Done.
just keep,
Sorry.
I would just remind board members, trying to ask questions, just keep them matter of time, because we still have to get into that.
This is real quick. I was
So
looking
board
at-
member Wright, and then back to you, Vice Chair.
I was looking at the footprint again in your outline, in my bearings. It says existing dealers. I mean,
Yes.
is the dealer staying or is it a
Dillard's
parking lot?
is staying.
Wow, so Dillard's is going to stay.
Dillard's
and be
is,
not an anchor, but just an independent store.
yes. They will have a new exterior entrance that will look out over onto the rest of the green.
I hear you, Dillard's. Okay, that's
Yep.
cool. All right.
Yeah, and part of, and I think there may be some confusion within some of the documents. Part of putting this plan into place, we have 3 land sellers, and then we are doing a land swap with Dillard's.
Okay.
Is that your question? I'm like, I know I need to address it. So a land swap with Dillard's. So if you looked at the tax maps any time recently up there, there are some funky tax lines that predate all of us, and nobody remembers why they were the way they were. So to make this synergistic thing work, right, we needed to give ourselves the right locations for the different uses, but also give Dillard's a contiguous parking field for their patrons.
Okay.
So, like, we will own this piece over here, but we didn't own this piece over here. So in flip-flopping, that gave them better access for their patrons as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Well,
And that will be done, I'm sorry, and that will be
Oh,
done
sorry.
once we own the parcels.
Right.
The next day type of thing.
Okay.
Yep.
well, thank you very much for the presentation. Again, the board members received some information too prior to the meeting as part of the packet, but certainly thank you for giving us an overview, coming and answering our questions. maybe some more coming your way here
I'm
shortly.
here for it.
But right now, I want to get into the actual details of the arrangement, and glad to have Bob Mendez, Chief Development Officer for Metro here, and I would say kind of a resident expert on TIFs, but is involved in the tax increment financing report, and certainly I previously, when Bob served as council member, I asked him to come speak to our board on several occasions on TIFs. So thank you for coming, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, I appreciate it. Good to see everybody. So I'm going to run through the slides. There's a lot of information.
On the TV right here.
Oh, okay. And I'm happy to circle back because I'm sure there'll be different questions about different parts of it. So this slide I'm going to go really quickly on the challenges facing the mall. We've already discussed in some detail. I literally, a couple weekends ago, checked out the property taxes for Bellevue Mall versus Rivergate Mall properties over the last 10 years, wildly going in opposite directions. And so it is an area that, the technical term in the tax increment financing world is blight. Like under any definition of blight, that's what's going on around the mall. So the solution, which you heard about in detail from Maris, is the redevelopment plan. And again, they've been approved by the Planning Commission. You got a link from my colleague a week and a half ago about that, and you saw some more slides about that today. What we're really here about is what can Metro do about it, and we've reached a deal. And as I talk through some of the details of it, I'm going to pause and mention things that are a little bit different than previous tax increment financing deals. And as the chair mentioned, when I was in the council, my first term when Anthony Davis was still there, we did some fairly substantial reform about tax increment financing. And with this being the first deal through the O'Connell administration, Mayor O'Connell wanted to make sure that we build in some of the things that were lessons learned from previously. So as we get to things like that, I'll stop and mention them. So the chair mentioned what tax increment financing is. It's basically a split of revenues for new revenues. And this is, again, a place where we're doing things a little bit differently than in the past. For the first 30 years of TIF in Nashville, there wasn't a split. It was all the new property tax revenue went to support the deal, and none of it went to Metro. We've got a pretty substantial split where Metro gets a piece to pay for things like schools and our own debt service along the way. The bullet points about there's two different numbers up here, the 42 million and the 22.5 million. And this is another place where we're trying to be different in a more transparent way than TIF has typically been talked about. Think about the 42 million as the maximum amount of money available over 25 years to pay principal and interest. So that's a stream of payments that we expect to be available for the developer. And the 22.5 million is what it's worth today. When they go to the bank and say, oh, we got a $42 million access from Metro over 25 years, how much will you lend me for that? They're going to get about $22.5 million. And we want to talk about both numbers, keeping in mind that one is what it's worth to them today. How much money are they going to be able to borrow today to build infrastructure for Metro and the city of Goodlettsville, while also keeping in mind, really we want to know how much they'll have access to over time. So that's the reason for the two numbers. Tax increment financing, you see the word non-recourse here, a little bit of a lawyer nerd word, I'm sorry about that. Non-recourse means they don't get to come back after Metro. If the developer doesn't pay their $22.5 million loan, or the tax revenue for whatever reason isn't enough, the IDB and Metro taxpayers don't have to pick up the pieces. It's only property tax. So if the development was a total bust and never created new incremental revenue, the loan would be a bust, and probably some guarantor, the developer would have to probably pay some money to a bank. But Metro doesn't have to worry about anything other than using new tax revenue. The documents formally being approved by y'all today, you've got a resolution that attaches the economic impact plan, and that in turn attaches the development agreement. So you only have to approve one thing today. You approve the resolution, and that approves the economic impact plan and the development agreement.
One quick note on that, the impact plan is not included in your package, but the resolution is.
It was included in the documents.
Right.
52 page.
Yeah, it's a lengthy document. So getting into the details about what Metro retains. Metro retains the amount of tax money that it's getting today at all times. None of that gets used to support the development. And then Metro at all times through the 25 years will keep what we call the debt service taxes. And what that means is whatever amount of our operating budget goes to pay debt, this year it's about 13%, the city will keep that 13%. And if next year Metro is paying for debt 14% or 15% or 10%, that's the percentage every year that we'll automatically get. So even with the new revenue, we'll be able to keep enough to cover the city's long-term debt. And then what we keep above and beyond that is after the first 5 years, after that, Metro will keep 25% of the rest. So that blends to once we get to year 6, Metro will be keeping somewhere around 35%-ish, a third or so of the new property tax revenue. So once this gets going, Metro will basically keep about a third, and the developer will get about 2/3 to pay for that loan that they're going to do. And then another new item that hasn't been in any IDB TIF before is we've built in that $42 million total that they get access to, the IDB is going to be able to cover up to $25,000 a year of administrative expenses because there's a bunch of parcels, it's going to be a bunch of owners, somebody's got to sit down with a spreadsheet and do math and get numbers from the property assessor and the trustee and do some calculating every year. And before now, the previous IDB TIF deals, Metro just absorbs that cost. Going forward on this one, it'll be up to $25,000 a year to fund those third-party expenses. Kate has gone through the developer commitments. There's the affordable senior housing. That's I'll call that Plan A and Plan B. Plan A is they're committed in the documents to try at least twice to get LIHTC credits through Tennessee Housing and Development Authority. If they get that LIHTC credits, they'll do all the units in the range of 50 to 80% of the area median income. If they're unable to get the credits from THDA, then they'll provide 10% of the units affordable to 80 to 100% AMI at a minimum. I think their goal is going to be to try to have it be in the vicinity of area median income affordable anyway, but a minimum commitment would be 80 to 100% AMI. We think this is a fair deal. We think on this particular project, because of the infrastructure challenges, we are primarily buying infrastructure with our tax money. And I can say, as somebody who, part of my job responsibility is I've got a mall in Antioch I'm supposed to be redeveloping, that we are redeveloping. We have a great deal of sympathy for the extraordinary infrastructure challenges on this site. So we feel like maybe this isn't the most amount of affordable housing ever, and we certainly want future people to do more. But here we are primarily buying infrastructure. And then the WeGo piece is a big deal. We're just at the front end of Chime, and having mass transit built into the plan is a thing that we think is really valuable. There's a variety of deadlines for when they have to do various things, or the TIF, their access to TIF goes away. If you wanted to, I could run through them. The basic ethos is we think they're probably going to be more afraid of their bank than they're afraid of Metro. And so we just put some deadlines in. There were things like 7 years to start construction on the affordable housing. We think they'll beat that by many years. But we've got a deadline for that. We've got a deadline for putting in the common infrastructure, a deadline for putting in parcel-specific infrastructure, all things to make sure that everybody is clear. This can't be a buy it and sit on it. And that you just could tune in 15 years later and still get the incentive. You gotta be on the clock. You gotta keep moving. So we have a series of incentives or deadlines on that. There is one thing that is late breaking additional agreement that's not in the slide deck that I want to tell you about, because I'm going to ask you to have an amendment that the chair and law department can tell you about. Literally just this morning, we've agreed with the developer that if there's any appeals of property tax appraisals, they'll be required to notify the IDB, both of the existence of the appeal and to provide supporting materials to the extent state law allows providing it. And so they're not prohibited from appealing, but they would have to provide notice. And any sub-developers that they sell parcels to would be bound by the same language. So we reached that agreement this morning, and legal counsel is going to be able to walk you through a two-sentence amendment that we would ask for you guys to, so we don't have to come back to y'all again after the council approval. I want to, before going to the next slide, talk a little bit about how the mayor has come to the sort of economic decision about whether this is worth it for the city. We all know from just the feels like, the community aspect, having this redeveloped would be a lot better. We've really tried, with this being the first tax increment financing deal of this administration, to not rely on feels like in looking at the deal. We wanted to look at what is Metro a direct, clear benefit to Metro, and to make sure that what we're providing gives Metro at least as much value. And so we've talked about the value to them is really the opportunity to borrow $22.5 million. That's what we're providing them. On the Metro side, we've wanted to make sure that our share of the property taxes that we would get, plus the portion of any new hotel tax that would go to the general fund, plus direct sales tax from expected construction cost, that those are the things that we looked at, that we would be getting at least as much back as we're putting into it. And so we've disregarded for our own mayor's office calculation indirect things like spending by households, spending by employees. Surely there's going to be a lot of that, but when we think about, well, this is the first one that we've done, people are going to come and ask us for more. We don't want to be in a position of taking into consideration these feels like things, the indirect things. And so we've tried to focus heavily on direct benefits back to Metro taxpayers in exchange for this direct benefit out to the project. And I want to, like on the hotel tax, just to underscore it, like the hotel tax is roughly, it's a per night flat fee of a couple dollars that doesn't go to the general fund. It's committed to tourism type things. And then there's another 7% on top of that, that only 1% of the 7% goes to the general fund. The other 6% is spoken for stadiums and convention centers. And in our calculus, we've disregarded the flat fee that goes to not the general fund, and we've disregarded 6 out of the 7 other percent, and just looked at the piece that goes directly to the general fund for us to support the ongoing operations of the government. And that's, I think, for those of you who've been around prior TIF deals, that's a departure from how it's been thought about in the past. Process-wise, you've heard, you all are hearing it today. The council, if you guys approved, would deal with it on May 20th. The bullet point there about later date, when there's actual TIF loan documents where they actually go borrow the 22 million, IDB would have to approve those at a later date. That's less policy and more mechanical. If you approve today, as long as the loan documents match up to the deal, you guys really, it's more mechanical. But that'll come back before you all someday. And then there's two additional things that I want to, maybe three additional things. Kate already mentioned two of them. One is we are aware of the additional request for City of Goodlettsville to chip in some tax increment financing too, because they charge some independent property tax that is separate from Metro. We're aware of the range of the negotiation. It's substantially smaller, heavily lopsided in favor of the Metro. 42 would be a lot bigger than what City of Goodlettsville does, where whoever's current position it ended up at. We're clear on our analysis because we've been so conservative in both what we think about property values and by focusing on direct benefits, that whether City of Goodlettsville and Maris reach something at the Goodlettsville current number or Maris's current number or none of the above, we feel like it's a fair spend of Metro tax dollars for the infrastructure that's going to be installed. So we're monitoring that, and we want to know the details. They're keeping us up to date, but it doesn't impact our analysis. And then she mentioned also the possibility of an infrastructure district where they would basically have these parcels self-charge above current property taxes to help them pay for infrastructure. We're fully indifferent to that. If they want to charge these properties a little bit extra property tax above and beyond what they owe, like everybody else, and they want to do that instead of an investor or a bank providing money, that doesn't change our economics at all. So we're monitoring that also. If they ever chose to do that, as I understand it, that would go only to the council and not to y'all, and possibly to Goodlettsville's city council also, depending on how it worked. So with that, I'm happy to take questions. Our request is that the resolution that's before you and its attachments get approved with the amendment that would put into place the agreement we reached this morning about full disclosure of any reappraisal appeals. So I'm happy to answer questions, Sheriff.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation and all the information again. Very helpful. So I'll start here to my left. Any questions?
No, Chair.
Regarding the document or anything from the presentation? Yeah, thank you. Very thorough.
It was a great presentation, but I do have a couple questions that you may have answered. I'm trying to process all this new finance information that you gave us today. So I have a couple. One is in relation to the senior housing. I know that area, I used to work at a senior living facility out there that was always at 100% capacity. And I know that area has a lot of seniors. So I'm thinking about displacement and small businesses placement in any event that you're not able to secure the additional funding for additional senior housing. Is there an opportunity for Metro to maybe step in with some sort of anti-displacement support?
For, just to make sure I understand the question, from other displacement from other facilities and businesses?
Just in general, because let's say this thing goes the way you want it with the right time and it just blows up and everybody's out there trying to buy all the houses. Mark's property values through the roof.
Okay. Yeah.
You guys single me out.
I mean, you know.
I understand the question. One of the things that's made, I'll get to answering. I'm taking a little side trip first to explain the perspective. One of the things that has made this comfortable for the mayor's office to work with Maris on is we are currently the owner of a mall we're trying to redevelop. And so a lot of the challenges that they described about Rivergate, we're feeling hard we wish we had somebody else to go to ask for $42 million worth of stuff. But the city owns it down there. And our feeling about at least Global Mall, and I think it translates into the Rivergate area too, is it's run down enough where we're not expecting runaway gentrification at the edge of the county. And even in Bellevue, I think the experience is, even with property tax revenue on site spiking 500% in 10 years, we're not hearing any complaining about an impact on housing costs in the area. So I'm not worried about housing costs spiking in the area due to the mall being redeveloped. We're more worried about the opposite of it just being a drag on property owners. On the small businesses that are in the mall, like I don't know the exact number, but with 29% occupancy, I'm guessing it's not that many businesses that are in there right now. That is a thing where I'm sure that our office will be able to talk about any programs the city has available.
Yeah, I've had several conversations with the city of Goodlettsville. They've got several retail developments that are currently vacant that are in the area, and so those will be prime locations for some of those retail establishments currently in the mall.
Okay. I have a couple other ones. One is about the WeGo. So there's mention of WeGo land set aside, and I saw that there are also some deadlines that are going to be put in place. Is there clarity on when transit access will actually be integrated, or?
I think, and I don't want to throw my Metro colleagues under the proverbial bus. I think,
That's good.
I think the developer would, the developer is more worried about WeGo taking 10 years to say build it than we are worried about the developer slow walking us. And so the deadlines in the agreement actually include Metro has to speak up within a certain month. They don't want to hear from Metro 20 years from now, like, oh, it's time. So on our end, I would say that with the referendum just passing in November and the chief program officer just being hired and not starting for another month or so, I'm expecting that by the end of the year, this calendar year, Metro will have more clarity about the pace of how we handle individual corridors. So I'm not in a position to answer that question right now, but that's more of a, we just passed the referendum a couple months ago thing, not a developer thing.
Okay. I have a couple more questions, Nigel. Just two. Let me see. I don't think that was... Okay, this one's about to. So, I see that there are going to be a lot of infrastructure upgrades with the $22.5 million, and I'm wondering how will those be determined, and I guess which ones are prioritized? Like, what? The map just looks like it's a lot of stuff going on, so I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Here's our thinking on that. I should have mentioned before now, another thing that Metro did differently than I think any other TIF deal maybe ever in the history of Metro is we hired an outside consultant through our law firm to independently review the financial proposals, look at the legal contracts. So instead of guessing at some question like this where I would have, any TIF deal in the history of Metro before now, we would have had to have said, the developer told us there's a ton of infrastructure. Now I can say, after consulting with our independent expert hired through our independent law firm, we're confident that the total dollar value of infrastructure that they're going to have to do here is $35 to $40 million. And so we're contributing to the infrastructure. We're not buying all the infrastructure. And they're clear that this is their bite at the apple, and we're not doing any infrastructure ourselves. Like we're chipping in this, they're doing all the infrastructure. So we feel like the answer is, well, they're doing all of it, and it's worth a lot more than $22.5 million. And so we feel pretty protected.
Kind of answered it. I only got one more question.
I felt it.
I didn't ask none of my housing questions.
That was a good question, though. That was a good question.
Now, my other question is, this is kind of general. Aside from all the amazing information, newly ways of doing TIF deals that you gave us and the reappraisal amendment, what lessons were learned from Bellevue Place, from One Bellevue Place or 5th and Broadway that Metro is applying to Rivergate to ensure better outcomes?
That's a great question. One of the things I asked the mayor if I could do when I took the job in the office is I asked if he was okay with me leaving my political website up, including every blog post I ever did. And if you take a look at every blog post I ever wrote about tax increment financing, I do not think you'll find anything that I wrote as a council member that is inconsistent with this deal. And that is, I mentioned that just to underscore, like, we tried to go to school pretty hard off of the tax increment financing study and formulating group unanimous report from 2019 that former Councilmember Davis will remember, and all the legislation that I helped lead on when I was in the council to make sure that nobody's going to be able to stand up and say, hey, that blog post you did in 2017, you said this is BS, Bob. Like, why are we doing it? So we've tried to go to school on all that stuff. For the couple of projects in particular that you mentioned, I think we have been happy to see that the developer's master plan seems to take some lessons from Bellevue as far as how it's physically set up. That TIF deal, you guys may know, hasn't covered even though the property taxes are up a lot, the new revenue hasn't covered the TIF in full every year, which again, that's no skin off of Metro.
And no recourse to the IDB.
No recourse to IDB, but it is, like if you're looking to improve practices, it would be nice if projects were able to pay their loans in full every year. And so that's part of what's driven us to be more conservative, we think, in the math. And then 5th and Broadway, there's like, everything's different than 5th and Broadway, as far as the economics of the thing goes.
Thank you, Bob.
Sure.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. I'll start here to my right. Any questions or
Sounds
comments?
great. Yeah, appreciate it.
Vice Chair, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got a few, so apologies in advance.
I would just, again, I'm fine with, ask the questions, but just in the interest of time, if someone's already asked, and this is not to you, this is everybody to the board, just be mindful so we're not repeating questions. But that's to everybody. All right, thank you. Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Yeah, I guess just confirming if we're pursuing, or if the developer is working to look and partner with another third-party developer, are they aware that the LIHTC deed restriction is longer than the 20-year TIF? Okay. And is that going to impede you from finding it? Okay.
That's why you work with the developers that understand that, you know what I mean, as you know.
I guess in looking at the economic impact report, I'm wondering if maybe this is where that appeal came from. It looked like they were evaluating the senior housing deal under a different model than the way that Tennessee values tax credit deals, and so I'm curious if you can talk more about that and how that's.
Yeah, and so this is wonky, and I'll give the wonky answer and then sort of circle back and try to have it make sense.
Yeah.
So the basis of the question is Tennessee has a unique way among the 50 states, literally a unique way of appraising affordable housing projects for purposes of property taxes, and that is that it considers the value as if it were a full market building as opposed to an affordable building, which creates a clear unfairness in that an affordable housing owner has to pay property taxes as if the building was all rented out at market rate instead of all rented out as affordable, and that's a problem. And it is definitely true that the economic impact report doesn't take that into account at all. One of the real benefits, I would argue, to Metro, and this was recommended in the 2019 TIF study and formulating group is like, Metro's never done independent, quote unquote underwriting. Like if you go to a bank and say, I want a loan, they got a room full of people that pore over your pro formas and your documents. If you go to a venture capital firm and say, I want some equity, they got a room full of people who look over it. Metro, it's a different era, different time. Metro's never really done that before. And so our property tax numbers that we took into account on our end are ours, not theirs. And if you look at the chart, I think they were already taking relatively discounted property values because that's what they have to show their bank. We've carved that back a little bit more, and we think we've been conservative enough where we're not hurt by that nuance.
Gotcha. So you feel like even if they do appeal, there's no problem with you or Metro meeting that minimum requirement?
We think we're fine.
Perfect. And then you spoke a little bit about, because of the conservative underwriting and the way you've underwritten this, that post year 6 you might be getting like a 30% spread in terms of the revenue. Is there language buried in the resolution, or has there been thought given to what's going to happen with that additional 30% spread? Is it going to stay in the district? Is it going to impact?
Just going to go to the general fund.
Okay.
And pay for fire, police, schools.
Gotcha. I didn't know if there might be hope for maybe, or consideration for future TIF deals is if we're stimulating economic development, maybe it continues to bolster the supportive services that come from.
I think it would be hard to be one size fits all because there might be a difference between a deal at the edge of the county, where by and large, police, fire, roads, schools, water, and as opposed to something that's more intensive, closer in. Like I think we would all not want extra tax revenue from center of the city TIF to stay in the center of the city.
That's true.
We actively want that to be elsewhere. Because that's one of the big knocks on TIF is just happens downtown, and what are we really doing when we have deferred maintenance in schools? So I think our intention, at least as a starting point, is for any project, the part that we keep, part of the increment that we keep, just goes to the general fund for supporting all city services.
Gotcha. That's great, and I love how you explained it. I'm just curious, maybe just the larger general area. I'm thinking about long-term, is Madison going to need a new high school? So maybe we can capture some of this 30% to go towards a new high school. Things like that. That's generally what I'm referring to.
Sure.
And you mentioned having to apply twice for tax credits. Is that twice for the 9%, twice for the 4%? Or so we're talking 4 times? What are we talking about?
What did we?
Twice for each.
Twice for each. Okay.
At least twice for each.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. And then totally understand about the huge amount of infrastructure. That is a massive number. I'm curious if in that $35 to $40 million cost, what was the nexus of that? Is that going to influence development just on the 58-acre parcel? Or did that $40 million also help, or will it also potentially help spur development in the surrounding parcels as well? Or how is that calculated? And just curious, we're very conservative, thankfully, in underwriting, generating property tax revenue for just the acreage, but I'm curious how it may also boost and spur other economic development outside of the TIF district.
We maybe should both answer this. From Metro perspective, my understanding from our team is that this is an on-site number, and so we did spend some time thinking about, okay, are we going to run into a scenario where the water line works for a mall, but it doesn't work for all these residential units? Are they going to have to do something else? And just being really blunt, Metro's attitude was, they're sophisticated actors. They know how to ask for something if they want. And so we're pretty clear that they're pretty clear that if there's something off-site that they're required to do to make their project work, it's on their tab after this. And we haven't actually talked about it. I'd be curious myself whether that's the same way y'all are thinking about it.
Well, it's definitely cleaning up a lot of aged infrastructure, so while, yes, you're absolutely correct that it does first and foremost benefit the district, anybody upstream, downstream that is, having issues just by cleaning it up very much, can be served. But, there's, at this point, we do not have.
So do you imagine eventually other nearby parcels off-site asking to tap into the new infrastructure that you're providing?
That would be something they would come to the sewer department or the water department, however that capacity works.
Gotcha.
I guess I would say, because it's already been through the planning commission and approved, part of my in negotiating perspective is any needs like that would have been vetted out by the departments in the rezoning process, and any needs that the developer would have to do in order to move forward would have been daylighted and included as conditions for approval at the planning commission.
Gotcha. So there's not. You guys are great actors. So there's
We don't
not.
just act, we actually do it in real life.
No.
Like commercial.
You have an incredible track record. Is what I mean. I've just heard anecdotally of some developers holding hostage surrounding parcels from development just by not extending water sewer capacity because it's on their property. So just hoping to make sure that doesn't prevent future development in the surrounding parcels.
This is
as
public
well.
infrastructure. Let's make sure that that's very clear. This is not something that is private that, I wouldn't be here talking to y'all if it was private.
Yeah, it's not like I'm a property owner next door and I need to easement to get to sewer on the other side and you're holding me hostage. What's the easement worth for you? This is public, to your point.
And the water line, and it benefits your property, but it benefits everybody down the street as well.
Well, and we were talking in the hall while you guys had the room full with other business. And we've run into this at Global Mall, we've run into it on the East Bank. The infrastructure that's in place is such a junkyard. It's going to work better after it's
After
redone.
this, yep.
Absolutely. Cool. No further questions.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. Board Member Wright, any questions or comments?
It's gonna be quick. My board members covered 99% of it. Great project, and I want to make sure it's successful. Very unique. Goodlettsville and Nashville. And I've had to deal with this before because I have property on the line like that. It's weird how you have one here and then you get utilities from here, but you get them from Nashville as well. My understanding is Metro is taking on the majority with their TIF for this project. And in doing so, this probably will push the needle for Goodlettsville to say, okay, Nashville's taking on 80%, we'll do the other 20%. And I believe you covered this earlier. If for some reason Goodlettsville says, no, we don't want to do it, the 80% is safe.
Yeah, and
The project can be successful.
Yeah, and I don't think Kate's going to mind me saying this.
Okay.
You might imagine in a negotiation, we have a little bit different perspective. What the developer says that we covered 80% of the problem. Like we believe the project is doable with the amount of money that Metro is providing.
Okay.
We've shared that with the city of Goodlettsville, that's how we feel, while telling them that as our brothers and sisters who we share constituencies with, they're part of the county, we're neighbors. If they decide they want to make extra sure that it's going to happen and they want to chip something that's up to them with their tax base. Metro believes the project is doable, whether City of Goodlettsville does something or not. And I think you heard Maris say earlier, if Goodlettsville doesn't do anything, that they'll find other creative ways to get the job done. So I think the project is pretty safe, and her 80% is our 100%. That's the nature of the negotiation.
I just had to hear it twice. Sounds good. Okay. Make sure I heard it correctly.
Yep.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Great questions here. Metro Legal, anything that you want to, well, let me first start off with asking you, is there anything you want to point out to us in the documents that were not pointed out by Bob Mendez from
No, I
your
think
legal
Director Mendez gave
perspective?
a good overview of the document, so nothing additional.
All right, and from a legal perspective, everything's in order in your
Yes.
opinion? Okay. Do I need to read this on the agenda, this paragraph, which I did not?
I don't think you need to read all of
Okay.
that.
All right.
Thank you.
I think it just needs to be clear what you're approving.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to.
Chair, if I may just talk about the process, as Director Mendez mentioned the amendment.
Oh, sure.
So,
Thank you.
this is a little bit different because you actually have a resolution that's in front of you. Usually when you guys do motions, there's not a resolution in front of you.
Or do you want to read that?
Well, yeah, I'll get to that in just a
Okay.
second. So there's a resolution that's in front of you where, as Director Mendez mentioned, you are approving the economic impact plan, which also has you approving the development tax incentive agreement. And so since there does need to be an amendment to the resolution, the process that needs to work is first you need to get the motion on the floor to approve the economic impact plan. Once that motion is on the floor, there needs to be a moving of the amendment, and I'll actually read the proposed amendment to you, so you guys don't have to do that. And then once you approve the amendment, assuming that you do that, then you'll approve the resolution as amended. So it's kind of a three-step process, so does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. You can remind us as we get started.
It went here and went around.
Because I know some people, they're already hungry just thinking about lunch, so I'll let you, do you want to read it now?
Well, so first there needs to be a motion to approve.
All right, so let me do that. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the Economic Impact Plan and Development Agreement for Rivergate Mall Redevelopment TIF Project.
I make a motion.
All right, we have a motion.
Yeah.
Second.
Board Member Wright, properly seconded by Board Member Johnson.
All right, and for the amendment, this is going to be the requested motion, then also the language that will be added to the actual resolution. So it's to move to amend Section 4 of the resolution to require that the development and tax incentive agreement include the following provision. The developer agrees that it will and will provide in its agreements with any project developer that each project developer will provide notice to the IDB within 10 days of the filing of any appeal of the appraised value of property within the plan area, along with copies of all materials filed in support of the appeal, except any portion of such materials that is protected from disclosure under state law. So I'm happy to read that again if that.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good on it.
Okay.
I can read it again, but basically what
Last part.
the amendment is that you're amending to require that the developer require in its agreements with project developers, if there's ever an appeal
of the
property
property
tax appeal for any of the properties, they're going to notify the IDB within 10 days and provide any supporting materials for that appeal, as long as those documents are not subject to being disclosed under state law.
Okay, that was the thing.
So there's some information that could possibly be protected from state law, and so that's what the
And
last part of
you
that.
would know that.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yep, so it's just notice.
Right. Just notice. Okay.
Essentially. All right, so I then need
You need someone to accept the motion as I asked.
all right, is there anyone who will accept the emotion? Thank you, Board Member Rodriguez.
Are we moving the amendment?
Need a second.
You're moving the amendment as I just read.
And now I need a second.
You need a second on the.
All right, so Board Member Rodriguez, do I have a second?
Second to move the amendment as
All right,
stated.
thank you. Board Member Davis, properly seconded. Any
discussion?
Any discussion? And now we're good?
I think you need to vote on it.
Yep. We're voting on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carried. Let the record show the chair abstained for the record.
And then
Approval
now
as
you're,
amended.
now you're seeing the motion as, the original motion as amended, so the economic impact plan resolution as amended.
All right. Economic impact plan and development agreement as amended.
Correct.
So moved.
Move approval as
I'll
amended.
move approval as amended.
I make that motion.
All right, Board Member Davis. Second, properly second, Board Member Wright. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carried. Just let the record show the chair abstained. That's it?
That is it.
All right,
Adjourn.
good job. All right,
Chairman's report.
Chairman's report. I'll be brief today due to time. I know that people want lunch. We will plan to have just couple quick updates. Do plan to still have the Dominion projects come before this board later this year. If you recall, late last year we approved bond resolutions for 2 new Dominion projects. I anticipate that those will be coming before this board still here later this year for final bond approval. Hope to have an update on timing on that at next month's meeting. So that's one update there. And then the second item, if you haven't seen it, the Unified Housing Strategy is out. Now, obviously, that's not all this board does, but we've certainly been intentional and certainly want to see if there's any ways that we can contribute to that positively. And so I do anticipate we'll have a speaker here next month to talk to us about that. And that'll kind of basically be the main topic for next month's meeting. With that, it is right here at 12:30. I do want to thank Senior Chief Development Officer Bob Mendez, thank Metro Finance, Metro Legal, Jamari Brown with Metropolitan ECD Senior Director, and certainly want to thank all of our guests and certainly Council Member Webb as well for your feedback and all of our guests. Thank you everyone. Have a wonderful day. We will adjourn. It is here at 12:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. You live in my area?
No,
No, you just have to, okay, well, you know if you ever need me.
I sure will.
And I know you know me already.
Good job, man.